Hello, everyone. My name is Emily Mari. I'm the Development and Alumni Relations Coordinator for the Athletics Department. I want to welcome you all to our fall kickoff event for our fall virtual series. We're, of course, so excited and grateful to be joined by all of our fall head coaches tonight. And I know that although so many of us are missing the presence of fall sports, our department has been working on ways to continue to celebrate our student athletes, our alumni, and all of our fans into this fall semester. And I want to give a big thank you to everybody who's participated in all of our programming this summer. To begin, I'd like to introduce our fearless moderator, Peter Pilling. Peter Pilling, Campbell Family Director of Intercollegiate Athletics and Physical Education, enters his sixth full academic year at the helm of Columbia Athletics. Peter has had an incredibly successful tenure thus far. Although our winter and spring sports seasons were cut short, we still saw Columbia women's cross country and Columbia women's fencing repeat as Ivy League champions. We had a number of individual Ivy League event champions, and many of our teams and individuals earned postseason berths. As we move into this new year, we are incredibly grateful for the leadership of Peter during this unprecedented time. Each of our fall coaches and panelists tonight have incredibly successful and lengthy coaching resumes. I'd like to start by introducing Kevin Anderson, who has been at the helm of Columbia's men's soccer program since January of 2009. Patricia and Shepard Alexander, head coach of football, Al Bagnoli, who has been at Columbia since 2015 and begins his sixth season. Head coach Tracy Bartholomew, who has been leading our women's soccer program since 2013. Our newest head coach, Katie DeSantis, Columbia College class of 2013, was named the sixth head coach in Columbia field hockey program history in June of 2020. Dan Ireland has been Columbia's director of cross country, track and field since July of 2014. And finally, Allison Keeley enters her third season at the helm of Columbia Volleyball as head coach. A big thank you to all of our coaches for joining us tonight. This is hopefully going to be a great event, and we're really excited to kick off the fall season. So thank you all for being here.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Emily. We appreciate you and Eric and the development team for all your work putting this together, and we're especially grateful for our coaches for their willingness to join us this evening and talk about some of the complex issues that we've dealt with and are dealing with this fall, and as we look forward aspirationally to some form of competition at some point during the academic year. But again, thank you. I was doing some quick math, and we're pretty close collectively to close to 100 years of head coaching experience amongst this group. So Katie, you're a little on the light side, but we wish you all the best as you venture into this head coaching world. And I know you rely upon a lot of your peers on the Columbia staff to reach out to and discuss that. So we'll get started. Obviously, this pandemic hit in March, and then we were kind of going through a lot of planning. We kind of describe it as, plan, prepare, and then pivot. We've been doing, unfortunately, a lot of pivoting. And as we saw with President Bollinger's announcement approximately 3 weeks ago that we were going to go all virtual for undergraduates, it's created a different level of pivoting. And, as we decide what we can do in the fall, our coach has been planning and incredibly patient, and we kind of look for opportunities to have some type of phased athletic activity. But all that being said, I would like to open up, Tracy, with you and the women's soccer program and kind of ask you about, during the pandemic, how you've utilized the time to kind of evaluate your program and what are some of the things that you've done to try to make it better in a difficult situation.
Well, I think this is, one of those you want the answer to, Peter, on my evaluation or something, making sure I'm still working and not at the beach hanging out. So, thank everybody for joining us. I think this has just been an unbelievable time of roller coaster emotions. And, we took the time, we were so excited for the spring and going into the fall that, just kind of felt the bubble burst, and it took the sails out of us. But the players that we have just kind of kept us focused and, kept dreaming and hoping for a fall. And, some of the things that we kind of just kept doing were, the team things, the focus, the team building, and as a staff, we looked at, how do we want to change and improve as a program? And so we started to really look at what our strengths were and what our weaknesses were and just attack some of those. And those of you that know the program, we finished 50th in the country. And so, we were ready to go. And I know, attacking wise, we outshot everyone in the Ivy League. We just didn't finish. So our goals were about finishing and working on those things and defensively. And so we took a good tactical approach initially with the players and not realizing the fall was going to happen. And so, you know, we've really kind of moved and are focusing on a more holistic picture for our student athletes. And we just have incredible, you know, young women. And, you know, we focused a lot on changing how to recruiting virtually. And I know we're going to talk about that hopefully. And, you know, looking at leadership training and looking at, you know, how do we engage in the community? How do we, you know, deal with everything that's going around us, and how do we better to each other? How do we be better, you know, every night when we go to bed, and keep a schedule and control what we can. And, you know, our young women have been tremendous at that. I have an incredible staff as well. And we just, you know, have been working together to create as best an environment we can, and with the hope of being back together. And I think the connectedness is one of the most difficult, but also, you know, we're very hopeful that we'll see each other again, you know, and, you know, in terms of the future of the program and stuff. And so it's been a big change, a big adjustment. And, you know, I feel like Katie right now, to be honest, like a first year head coach. And, you know, all these years, I kind of feel like I could throw out the window. And, you know, I mean, in terms of one side of it, but at the other, I know that if you build the culture right, that thing can keep going if you can just keep feeding the fire with it. And so that's what we're trying to do with little things along the way.
Okay, awesome. Let's stay with soccer. Kevin, what are some of the things you're doing within your program? It's interesting, if you talk about soccer, as I recall, I think the German league was one of the first organized leagues to come out and actually come back and play. And we've seen what's been going on with the MLS. But Kevin, could you talk about some of the things that you've done specifically with your program during this downtime, but yet to try to make your program better?
Yeah, thanks, Peter, and thanks everybody for joining. I hope that everybody's doing well. We have a similar approach. I think you imagine that Tracy and I collaborate quite a bit in terms of our programs and working together. And I think the approach that we took was the one that we thought was going to be in the best interest of everybody included. And so we focused on physical and mental health of our student athletes and our staff. And with the support of our extended staff and everybody in athletics, I think we came up with looking at our cultural values and our framework, and then how does that help us become the best version of ourselves that we can be both on and off the field. And so it was a tremendous opportunity that our players embraced. We knew that everybody was going through different emotions. All the families were managing something different. But we wanted to try to put something together that represented who we are and who we want to be. And how that could fit into everyday life. So whether we were going to be playing in the fall or we weren't going to play in the fall, or if there was summer opportunity or not, there was something that was aligning with everybody's life, so that we then could bring it back to our campus when we come together back as a community, so that we could be stronger. And so that was really our main focus during this time frame. And I think it was an amazing experience for all of us, for players and coaches alike, to reflect and to look back and to do a lot of listening and a lot of learning during a really challenging time.
Awesome, thank you. Coach Bagnoli, how about yourself and your program? All right, we'll jump off on mute, Coach. Oh, there you go.
Okay, so
Thank you.
for us, it was just really trying to keep a consistent approach to everything. You know, I think we're in unprecedented times. Everything is different. And I think the more that you can kind of bring back familiarity to your program and just reassure your kids and put them on a routine and put them on a schedule they're accustomed to, you've got a much better chance to weather the storm. So first and foremost, we wanted to make sure that the week was scheduled correctly for all of our kids. So whether it was positional meetings with their positional coach a couple times a week, it was offensive and defensive meetings, it was team meetings, or it was the strength coach reaching out via all the virtual stuff. I just thought it was important that we tried to keep those guys on some kind of routine, things that they were familiar with, things that I thought they would be comfortable with. And, you know, it's been relatively successful. You know, it's hard to manage when you have 110 plus kids all over the place onto exactly what they're doing. But we've done our best to try to make sure that we touch base. We want to make sure that they're okay, both on and off the field, and that whatever issues they have, we're here for them and we're here to address them. So it's been interesting. again, because the whole football landscape is all over the place with some Power 5 conferences shut down, 3 others are up. Most of the FCS conferences are down, but so it's been all over the place. And I was sharing with the group that there was a group of 8 to 10-year-olds practicing as I was driving back to my house. They were going full Borg, with 100 kids, uniforms and coaches and whistles. And yet, here we are and we're virtual. So it certainly has been a mixed bag, to say the least.
Yeah, thanks, Coach. I appreciate that. You can imagine that was one of the things somebody asked me, what's the biggest challenge as we entered this virtual world? And, one of the things, it's great. We have so many touch points with our student athletes while they're here. They're seeing their coaches on a regular basis. They're seeing their success or well-being. They're seeing their trainers and their strength and conditioning coaches, and they're having a lot of touch points. And all of a sudden we have 800 student athletes in 800 different locations. And it just made that really, really complex. And to your point, Al, where you talked about the different aspects of just holistic support, that was a big part of, I think, that where you, and I want to compliment all of our coaches, have done a remarkable job just making sure that we maintain those communication channels open with our student athletes, and that they know that we're here to support them in spite of the fact that we may be literally 12 time zones away and in dealing with student athletes all over the world. Let's shift and we'll turn to Allison, who heads up our women's volleyball program. And Allison, talk a little bit about, during these pandemic times, how it's impacted recruiting and some of the things that you've done in order to make it a little bit different. One of the great things about being at Columbia is we get student athletes to New York City and they get to see our campus and all the different aspects of what makes our program remarkable. How have you done that in the virtual world, and what particular tools have you utilized to tell that story?
Recruiting's been interesting. It's actually been a great opportunity for growth for our program, and I think tools and ways of communicating and relating with people that we're going to be able to use to move forward. And it's also been a great time for us to, you talked about moving the program in COVID, to rebrand and try to think of how we want to project our program as we move forward. So we've been working mainly through Zooms, both with 21s and 22s. I think some of the challenges are with the testing is one. It kind of put a lot of kids not sure where they were going to end up testing wise, so they were a little hesitant, and we weren't able to move forward with offers probably as quickly as we'd like. And also not being able to visit has been a huge one, and it's getting to the point where with sophomores or juniors pushing back the dead period again, so they can't actually come on campus potentially until January. So some of these kids are going to have to make decisions without ever visiting campus. So that's been unique. So we've been on Zoom. We did an initial call with a quick slide presentation. This is Columbia, get them hooked with the picture and the New York vibe. And then we went back with a team Zoom and kind of went into details, and had our team on, 3 or 4 of our girls, just to talk through their Columbia experience, day in the life. Then we went back. We've been back to these kids like 5 or 6 times already, each time with a unique experience, watching their video, talking about their volleyball story. So it's been fantastic. We spent more time with recruits and more time with parents than I think we ever have. And we feel really good about where we are as a program. And because nobody's been able to travel, we're in the mix with a lot of really good kids that might have committed earlier to a place closer to home or to a bigger name as they took their visits. But because they've been limited, they've really taken their time to explore their opportunities. So Columbia can be in the mix with anybody because of who we are. So it's been really exciting. It's been really exciting for me as a head coach to jump in on this.
Awesome. All right, Katie, we announced you as a new head coach, and we threw you into the deep end, and then we haven't even seen you since then in person. So how has this impacted from your position as a new coach? And all of a sudden, obviously you're involved with recruiting before, but how has it impacted your ability to tell the story of the field hockey program and Columbia?
Well, first off, thank you for the announcement and for the position. Honestly, it's been an amazing experience to start. And actually, this is a great segue to kind of jump into recruiting, because I actually chatted with Allison to get some ideas about what to do with the virtual world, because I was kind of trying to navigate things being in this new position, and she offered some great advice, and I kind of put it together with what I was thinking, and we've been off and running. So it's been a really unique experience, because a lot of the same challenges that Allison voiced were ours as well. The biggest one being trying to explain this timeline to recruits. They want to know, what's your timeline? What's your timeline? I'm like, well, I don't really have one. It's your timeline. So trying to flip the narrative to them and having it really be about them, and giving them the tools that they need and the information they need to make their decisions has been really the crux of our discussions with most of the recruiting that we've done. But it has been a really awesome way to utilize technology, to Allison's point, of making some presentations that we share on Zoom, sitting down with parents and the student athlete, which sometimes is difficult to do if only one can come visit, work, things like that. So being able to then show the new look field hockey team, which is a lot similar to what we've been doing, but maybe some new tweaks, new things, new direction we're going. And it's been really exciting. And we've gotten great feedback with the people that we've shared it with. They've loved the experience. Trying to show them campus virtually has been very unique and fun. So I think as long as you try and find new ways to do things and adapt to what you have, you can actually get some really unique products that come out. So it's been fun. I've really enjoyed getting to know this 2022 class, since we're already on the 2022s for field hockey, but continuing conversations from here and just, again, empowering them to take their time is really what we've been doing as a group.
Awesome. Thank you. Coach Ireland, so continue the discussion about recruiting and evaluation, but just how you are properly looking at, it seems like you have to throw out a broad net, as we do, because we go after student athletes that are meeting a certain academic threshold, but obviously phenomenal athletes. And then how are you properly utilizing the tools that you have to evaluate without having to see somebody run in person or to see them throw in person, and then also some of the things you may be doing a little bit out of the box in terms of this virtual recruiting world?
Yeah, it's been a challenge for us. We're trying to bring in 32 new athletes a year between the men and women, and we can use a lot of data. We don't need to necessarily see a lot of people in person like other sports, but our challenge now is, well, the coach will call us and say, hey, this kid, he's run 4:25, but if he'd run outdoors, he would have ran 4:10 and you'd won him. Yeah, maybe. We're not going to say he wouldn't have, but, so we're kind of trying to run down more contacts with coaches, get to know people that we know, get video. We've got a lot of people sending us time trial stuff they've done this summer with their coach on the track all by themselves, and they've run times or they've thrown things. So it's been a lot of unique stuff that we've gotten a lot more electronic-based stuff than we have before. But our sport's a lot different than most of the others here. We don't sign anyone. Usually we wait and see what they do outdoors their junior year, even some of the fall and some of the indoor season. So this is really hurting us because most of our kids have their best marks in the spring of their junior year, and we didn't have that. So a lot of the kids where it's projections, the ones that do have the academic marks, the athletic marks that we want, everyone in the Ivy is trying to sign those same kids right now. So in our sport, a lot of kids are already committing now in August that never would have committed until October because no one can do official visits. So what do you need to wait for? That's been our challenge, is we're really going to sign a kid that's never been to New York City to run, and have to run through the city. So we're having to do a lot more research. We've done a lot of the virtual home visits. Kids have loved those. We'll spend almost 2 hours with a family, put together a PowerPoint slide that walks through everything, pictures of everything. So that's been really well received. And I think things are going really well. It's just going to be interesting down the road where people commit not ever having been here. But those are the big things we're just looking at, trying to find the kids that understand what we're looking for, have the athletic side of things, and understand what our program is about and want to be here. So right now it's in a good place, but it's just going to be unique without the official visits in the fall.
Yeah. So Kevin and Tracy, I'm going to throw this out to you from a soccer standpoint. Both of you are out most of the summer, you and your staffs, and you're watching a ton of games, and now you probably have to shift that to film. And Tracy, we'll start with you. And how has that evaluation process changed? And then ultimately, how do you pull the trigger necessarily with offering someone with the fact that they may not have come to your camp and you may not have seen them in person, and what tools are you utilizing to make those evaluations in order to support somebody through the admissions process?
It's really been a challenge. I think, lucky for us that we were probably in women's soccer so far ahead that it's probably the slowest it's ever been to really kind of hit the brakes. And the evaluation part, I mean, you're looking at video, but it's not the same. And I know I speak for Kevin when I say that not having RID camps at Columbia has been a difficult challenge. That's been a real hit for us. I mean, most of our kids at least come and play in front of us, as well as seeing them with their club teams. I think, like as Dan said, you got to know your coaches. You've got to trust the people that have helped recruit the quality that you have. You know, we've kind of stuck with a lot of the similar clubs that we know the level of the player coming in, the competitive environment they're in as the clubs see them. And some of those kids have been training, and there's some video out there, but you know, that's kind of the stuff that we're using. It's a difficult challenge. I think it's going to be interesting. We know what we're losing now is we're seeing a lot of offers going to these 22s, you know, some significant money going to them. And so we're trying to, you know, the virtual thing is, I think that's such an exciting new piece that I think will continue, which is great. And, you know, I'm hopeful that we can try to get some kids that want to commit virtually, because we may be up against that, you know, at least some of the class anyway, and then go from there. And, you know, I hope that, you know, we're, you know, making the right decisions with the people, and, you know, having a little bit of trust and faith in our relationships with these club coaches too.
Yeah. Kevin, anything else to add there in terms of evaluations, just not seeing people live?
Yeah, I think just remaining as consistent and as patient as you can in the process for us, understanding our priorities in recruiting and what our team needs are, and how those needs then filter into the cultural framework that we put together. And what we did see is we saw students and families who were able to, on their own accord, get themselves into environments like our campus on their own, to walk around and to look. For us, it showed us that this was a place that they truly wanted to be, and we were mutually exclusive in terms of we both wanted each other in this process, and we wanted to support those student athletes. So far, the families that we're going to be able to support in the admissions process, we're really excited about. I think the hard part for the families and the kids is that they're seeing that other people might be moving faster. They're becoming a little bit more impatient. And I think the kids and families are going through is really unfortunate. So that's a big part of our recruiting process, just being transparent. This is where we are. This is where we see you today. And understanding that we may need to let someone move on because another opportunity might be right now what they think is best for them. But right now we're not in a position to take another step forward. So hopefully this world will open up a little bit. The coaching staff has watched more video than they would like to. I think it's amazing. Dan has a new computer. Staff, Alex, Ken, and Tommy, they have 3 computers. So they're watching games nonstop, but really thankful for the staff that we have and the amount of work that these guys have all put in to watch video and be specific to what we need. So we still have priorities. We still have to fill them, and we still have to fight to win championships when we get back out there.
Yeah, Kevin, you make a great point. You know, campus is open. Obviously, you can't meet prospective student athletes there and give them tours, but anybody can walk across campus right now and go through the gates and see it. And that's one of the things. I'm fortunate. A lot of you have invited me to be part of the recruiting process when we have official visits. And one of the questions I always ask prospective student athletes is, what's your impressions of campus? And they have no idea the beauty of campus and how it exists amongst, you know, New York City, and how it really has this separation, if you will, from the Upper West Side. And that, to me, is one of the great selling points that we have the best of both worlds. We have New York City and all that it offers, but we also have a true campus identity where you can feel part of that environment regarding there. And so if any prospective student athletes are out there, just know campus is open and you have the opportunity. You just can't meet your coach. So just a reminder there. All right, let's shift a little bit. And Allison, we'll start with you. You know, as you've gone through this, and if you're like me, you've had a chance to kind of self-evaluate, if you will, and self-reflect. And I'm just curious about what new skills you've undertaken, maybe certain things that you've done as you've been in this COVID world that you feel are going to be beneficial to your program.
I have a few skills. I'm not sure if wake surfing will help my program or not, but I've gotten pretty good at it. I've done actually quite a few webinars. A lot of them are focused on mental health. Obviously, I think with the COVID situation that came up, that has kind of been a priority. So just different ways to look at it, different things we can implement with our program. We have a pretty good leadership program in place that we developed using a Jeff Jansen series. And then obviously our success through well-being people are phenomenal. So we work with them pretty consistently, but I've done a lot of work with that. And then just technique stuff, learning. I've been in the business for 20 years. I've learned from a lot of different coaches. I feel pretty good about what we're coaching. But it's always good to sharpen the sword, right? So I've been on a lot of those as well.
Awesome. That's great. Katie, how about yourself, the new kid on the block? What kind of skills have you been trying to sharpen, if you will, out of the gates to make sure that the program will continue to grow in the magnitude that it has?
Definitely collaboration. So obviously being new to the gig, you have all these ideas and you want to do everything right now. And I think one of the best pieces of advice I got was from Meg Griffith. And she was like, look, you can really only do a couple things at once. Don't try and do everything at once. And I've carried that with me since the first day I got the job. So to this day, it's been just making sure that I don't lose sight of that, because there is so much that I want to do. And with the other coaches that we have here and the amazing support that we have with Success Through Wellbeing, I found that leaning on the experts in those fields that can help me is awesome. So we worked on some leadership programming with our captain specifically, and then we opened up a separate program with the team, and we collaborated with Kate Miller with Success Through Wellbeing, and then also Avi Edelman with Multicultural Affairs. So we did this whole collaboration of racial injustice, social equality, and things like that, but in the lens of leadership, self-reflection, and then moving towards activism. So being able to lean on those resources and then find new ways to implement them in our team has been really exciting. And something I kind of learned as, I guess, a new skill of mine is that I really like working with people, and it never really was a huge strength of mine. I'm very much like, give me a task and I will crush it. But now I really like doing things together, which has been really exciting and produced some really cool projects that we're working on.
All right, awesome. Okay, Coach Bagnoli, I'm guessing you haven't taken up wakeboarding this summer.
No.
So two-part question, completely different forks with these questions. What advice would you give to a young coach as they start their career? And then the second part, obviously I know how you are and I know how you operate, and I know you're always looking for ways to get better. Maybe share with our audience tonight some of the things that you're evaluating specifically within what you do and how you do it, and skills that you're trying to fine tune and hone.
Yeah. Well, the first question is pretty easy. I would tell anyone, just, you have to be you. You certainly can use ideas, and you should always be open-minded to other people's thoughts and how you can best implement them into your philosophical stance. But at the end of the day, you have to be you. And whatever you means and whatever you stands for, it has to be genuine, because the kids will look right through it. So, Katie, as you progress through this, I know you'll do great, okay? But really, don't be stubborn and not ask for help. And at the same time, stick to your convictions, stick to whatever principles you think are most important to you, and stick to the foundation that you think you need to build a successful program that can withstand long-term consequences. So that would be my advice there. Now, there's been two major takeaways over the summer. And, the first one is, football mentality has just been, you're on site, you're grinding, you're working constantly, whether it's 7 days a week in season, forever. And we've come to the realization that you don't necessarily have to be in your office to get your work done. And that there probably is a better life balance between the home front and the office, okay, that we've discovered, and we kind of stumbled into this by accident. Which I think has been awesome. And I'm going to look for ways to see if I can carry this through once we are back on campus, and just see if there's some kind of plan that we can have that would allow people to potentially spend a little bit more time at home, do things a little bit more virtual. And then the second takeaway is, everybody's been forced to expand their technological abilities and capabilities. So we've had to do just what everybody else has done with Zoom calls that, highlight the campus, that highlight positional meetings with your recruits, that reach out to kids, that hold different kind of platforms with leadership skills. And that embracement of technology, I think is a real positive for everybody concerned. And so, that's been somewhat exciting. The thing I miss, and the thing that's been weird is, kids are going to be making college decisions, and we're never going to have a chance to sit down face to face and talk. It's all going to be done on a virtual world, and it's all going to be done looking into a computer on a 3x5 square. And that to me is so unprecedented. I'm still having trouble getting my arms around it, but it's forced you to do all the things because there is no official visits. There is no 48 hours with your student athletes. There is no orchestrated campus and facility tour. I can't travel anywhere to home visit, so we have to make all that up on the technological side, which we do. And, we've had God knows how many home visits within the last, 3 months. But it's been an interesting way of how you have to address people and how you have to use technology.
Yeah, that's great. And great advice for Katie too. Thanks, Coach. I do know one thing you've been fine tuning, that's your time with your grandchildren. So
that's been the best part. So all the times I get stressed out when I get them, they put me right back. I feel good about everything, and then they leave, and then I get stressed out again. So
all right, well,
to keep them around.
tell the grandkids to spend more time with you in Mount Laurel.
Absolutely.
All right, very good. All right, Dan, Coach Bagnoli alluded to communications, and it is interesting. It's weird. I've been in the office 2-3 days this week, and there's been just a handful of people there. We wear our mask, but it was great to see Joe Quinlan in person. It was great to see Steve Figueroa in person. And I kind of went through this stage where I felt like, this Zoom process was pretty productive, but then you kind of dealt with this Zoom burnout, if you will. And I really enjoyed time seeing people's face to face. So just talk about how you guys have utilized technology and some of your communication tools. You have a large team. You're close to what football has. And so you're managing a lot of student athletes, and how you've communicated with them and what kind of technology you've utilized to make sure that they know that you're there for them, and all the different aspects of how you're communicating with them.
Yeah, it's been interesting because every year when we start the fall, we do individual meetings with our athletes. So I've got a meeting every hour this week, basically with a different athlete on Zoom, and we can see them face to face. It's definitely better than walking around your house with a cell phone to your ear for an hour. It's interesting, go back to recruiting piece a little bit. The thing I don't like about Zoom sometimes is it's hard to read people. In our job, you like sitting in front of someone in a house and you can read their body language, you can see their parents' reactions. Zoom, sometimes the kid's got a hat on, sitting in the corner, you can barely see if he's smiling, you're not sure what's going on. So there's good and bad sides to using the Zoom. But our kids, most of them have taken to it pretty well. They enjoy being on it. We try to do a lot of work because we have 115 athletes of putting small groups together. The seniors with freshmen, juniors, sophomores, or event groups, or sometimes we'll mix event groups up just to have some discussion. Our team has been really involved this summer in the Black Lives Movement and social justice stuff. So we've done a lot of meetings, and we have a lot of education, a lot of talks on Zoom, done some education seminars on Zoom, things like that. So it's been a much, much more of a helpful connective resource than if we were just making phone calls or on a conference call. So to actually see people get to talk about things and see reactions, especially with what's been going on across the country. And our program, as diverse as it is, it's been really nice to be able to have certain groups we put together and breakout sessions, mini sessions like we do in Zoom sessions. So it's been a very beneficial thing. Certainly hasn't replaced being in person in a meeting, but it's been a lot more useful at times when we can get people together than it could be sometimes when we're on campus. So I think it's something we'll probably continue to use as we move forward, especially our program with so many people. It's an easy way to get everybody in one place. But it's been beneficial, but I'm looking forward, like you said, to see people in person when we can.
Yeah, you guys have done a great job being somewhat leaders within our department just on social justice issues, and we applaud you. And Ted Gregory's done a nice job meeting with all of our teams and discussing these issues, and he's a great advocate of all these issues. And Kara Holzclaw and our staff and Ted are working on diversity inclusion committees and some of the things that we want to communicate with our student athletes and our staff, and look for ways that we can get better. And obviously these are trying times in our country, but it gives us a great opportunity to self-reflect and look for opportunities for us to continue to progress. And we applaud what you and your student athletes have been doing in that area. And I know a lot of our teams have been doing that too. So thank you. All right, let's shift to soccer. Tracy, you and Kevin would have played a game by now. I'm not going to bring that up, but how have you kind of maintained, I know how competitive both of you are. What have you kind of been doing with your team to maintain those competitive juices, if you will, and try to let, you know, your student athletes get out some of their competitive enthusiasm? So Tracy, we'll start with you.
Well, I think it's been a very tricky thing. At this point, we would have been coming back from California. And so, you know, I think finding the same level of competitiveness, I know I always pride myself on the fall and focus everything on the team. So finding the next thing, like I know there's a football game later tonight, like we know what's happening, but at the same time, still not your team. And so, you know, I think some of the things, you know, you had the Premier League, you have Champions League, you have other things going on. The NBC's, you know, going to put this women's super league is going to happen. And, you know, I think the Premier League starting back up. So, you know, we're looking at trying to get our women watching the game together as a team to kind of, you know, have those moments in terms of that. And so a lot of stuff will really kick off kind of as a school year kicks off for us. You know, we really we'll try to get some fix with that. I know the Yankees are on a really bummer of a slide right now. So it's been really humbling. I mean, I was all, you know, cheerful, and now my 7-year-old soccer, you know, is terrible. So that's not doing it either. And you know, so I'm really struggling. So Kevin, I know he wants to, you know, help me out with competitiveness. You know, we do different challenges, but, you know, the NCAA stops us from doing anything with our kids, you know, our team. So we're sort of stuck with some limitations, but I'm sure Kevin's got some good ideas.
Yeah, Tracy, get off the Yankee bandwagon and get on the Dodger bandwagon, and you'll be fine the rest of the year in terms of baseball. So that's my one tip with regard to that. Kevin, how about yourself and your team?
Yeah, certainly challenging to see Labor Day weekend come and go, and games not being played. And I guess one of the advantages is it's the first time in a long time for a lot of us that we've been able to see some of our families. So I think what we've tried to do is not think about with our guys the things that have been taken away, but what the opportunity has actually given them a chance to do. And so that's kind of remained our focus. And then we've tried to become better listeners and trying to understand their needs, and then creating an environment, whether it be in small groups like you heard Dan doing with breakout rooms and Zooms, or just smaller group discussions, where we were able to have peer-to-peer growth, peer-to-peer leadership, and peer-to-peer teaching. Because our thoughts are that if you can teach it, then you possibly know it. And so we've used our players and their skill sets to try to challenge them and to stimulate their thought process. And that's kind of one of the ways we did it. We're all really excited. You know, you mentioned the Bundesliga earlier. We're super excited. One of the first Americans in Europe, first American to ever coach in the Bundesliga, which is the top league in Germany, is one of our alums, Rino Matarazzo. So that's been really exciting, you know, for us. And so with the start of the leagues, we're all excited, and guys have their individual development programs where they have players that they like to look up to. And the challenge is, can you see the skills and traits and characteristics that they bring to the table that link with our cultural framework, and then link with the tactical principles of your position? So we've tried to figure out ways that whatever they're doing, there's something in it for them right now, because I think their focus sometimes has really shifted to what's been taken, which is understandable, but we're just trying to change the dialogue just a little bit.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. Jackie told our senior staff about that the other day, so that's quite an accomplishment. And their team was elevated up to the Premier League, is that correct?
Yeah. So Reno's he took over a solid run of wins consistently. So now he moved to this league, which is called the Bundesliga, and so now we have 2 Colombian people playing in the world. Reno representing this, obviously Rocco's team representing in Italy in the Serie A. So we're pretty proud. There's a history and some great references for all of us to grow from.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Kevin. You broke up there for a second, but obviously you mentioned Rocco Camiso's team. and the accomplishments that they had. I know they finished the season strong. As I recall, they finished 12th-ish, 10 to 12 in the Serie A league. All right, let's shift gears. Good. All right, let's.
We broke up in the top league.
All right, Kevin, we had a little Wi-Fi issue with Kevin, so we'll shift gears a little bit. We'll start with you, Allison, and then go to Katie. You know, one of the things we talk about is this holistic approach with our student athlete. Obviously, what you do in competition, but also some of the success that we have in all aspects of their lives. Our student athletes are remarkable academically. You know the accomplishments. I think we had 350 of our student athletes last year that were on the dean's list, and I think we had 50 student athletes that had 4.0 GPAs. And just remarkable, but remarkable in what they do in a variety of different aspects of their lives. And so as we're in this virtual world, Allison and Katie, we'll go to you first, Allison. How do you kind of maintain that holistic approach, and how do you support them in a way knowing that you're not going to see them face to face for the fall term?
Sure. I think that support has been kind of the main thing that we've gotten out of this time period. The first part of the COVID break was focused on the health issues and COVID and making sure people were secure. But one of the things we did, we had a Zoom with all our alumni that were in the healthcare field, and we have 10 student athletes that are pre-med. So all the healthcare professionals that were currently involved in the crisis here in New York, we had a person that works she's head of the ER at Presbyterian in the middle of the crisis. They were on our Zoom sharing with us. So that was fantastic. The second one was the Black Lives Movement. We had 2 alumni, again, very generous donating their time. Both are educators. One's on the legal side, one's a lawyer, and one's a school educator that are getting their PhD in social justice. So they came on and moderated with us. So engaging with the alumni community has been one way of doing that. And the other thing, our kids, they see an opportunity, right? So they run out the door and they're off with their internship. So we have a girl working on a lab on COVID. She's developing COVID vaccines in California. We have another one doing research here at Columbia with a professor. She meets once a week with all the top minds in the country to discuss what's on the forefront of the vaccine. A girl got a financial internship down in Florida. So our alums, our Successful Wellbeing program have all been exceptionally helpful in supporting these young women. But as you mentioned, it's the students, athletes themselves, which makes Columbia so unique, is they look for an opportunity to go out and do something. We have one girl that's going to Korea for a month because she'd never been to Korea and her family's from there. Another girl got an apartment in Munich because she'd always wanted to study abroad, and we don't have the opportunity to do that at Columbia generally during the year. So again, fantastic young women and always looking for something exciting, and they have a vision for themselves.
Yeah, that's awesome. How about yourself, Katie?
I actually would echo that. When all of this was going down, we had so much change happening all the time. We really took almost a reflective approach to things. And one of our biggest things that we talked about when we came together as a group for the first time was we want to put as much time into the field hockey and the physical fitness to the mental side. So a lot of people don't talk or devote time to mental fitness. So that was kind of our biggest push when we kind of were dealing with all the change. And that's really hard because they're dealing with all these obstacles and all these new things that Kevin was pointing to, of having to reframe that mindset. So it was a lot of coaching them of what are you feeling right now? Why are you feeling that way? And then what are you going to do about it type of thing? Because once you know what you're feeling, you can then react to it. So it was very youth-centered to start. They all decided to kind of go where they wanted to go for this year. So similar to Allison, we have a couple in Ireland. Some decided to stay home. A lot are in New York City in apartments. But then now that we're kind of kicking off the fall, it's going from introspection to then team. So a lot of what we did again was the mental fitness, and then that revolved around self-leadership, and what you do every day is leading yourself. And then how do we then make it team first again? So bringing all those tools that we worked on over summer and putting that towards that team approach. So how can you then hold each other accountable to things that you're doing? Team initiatives of team leadership, so leading yourself but then also leading the team. So that's really what we've been pushing is looking at the foundation that we're made of, and then how does that show up every single day.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's funny you mentioned that. We have student athletes obviously all over the world, but we have student athletes, as you mentioned, they're taking the initiative to go all over the world. I know Tracy, I was on a Zoom call with Kayla Davis. She's on our SAC leadership. And anyway, I just assumed she was at home, and she mentioned that she was in Ireland. And, I go, what in the world are you doing in Ireland? And so an experience that she had, an opportunity that she had, and, it never surprises me the magnitude of our student athletes and how resilient they are, but yet how much drive and initiative they have in their lives and what they can accomplish. It's remarkable when you think about a high school senior that's been successful in multiple aspects of their lives, both academically and athletically, and as they come to Ivy League institutions like ours, and they continue to grow and expand. And I think that's one of the great things that we take tremendous pride in, is what our student athletes accomplish. So I applaud all of you. You're on the front lines with all of our student athletes, and the way that you lead and mentor and help them in terms of their personal development is really remarkable, in addition to what you do in terms of competition. So we have about 10 minutes left. And so what I'd like to do is we're just going to go, Dan, we're going to start with you, and then we're going to go to Coach Bagnoli. Just anything that you would like to share with our audience tonight about your programs, something that I may have not addressed, something that you would like to share about something that you guys are doing that's maybe a little bit unique, community service, whatever it may be. And we'll kind of just go around the horn. Dan, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to Coach Bagnoli.
I don't know how unique it is, but we're trying to be more, I think a lot of our teams are, and a lot of people around the country, more socially involved in what's going on. The whole register to vote issue, be out and be heard, do things that make a difference. We're really pressing with our kids that, a year from now, have you made a difference? It's one thing to say you're not a racist, but are you doing stuff to be anti-racist? And we're really trying to work and be involved. Like I mentioned before, our team is so diverse, and just bringing our whole group of athletes together, getting to know each other, and start on a small level. We're trying to really work and look at what we're doing as a program. And then from the program, it goes to the community at Columbia, and from Columbia, it goes to New York City, and from New York City beyond. You have to start somewhere. So we're really trying to work on that, because a lot of our kids are really involved. A lot of our coaching staff feel strongly about this. And, I've learned a lot myself this summer through education. And that's the stuff we're trying to pass along, is that we can all do a better job. And that's kind of what our team is kind of taking right now. Our athletics are taken away from us. So what can we do to make a difference around us? What can we do to keep ourselves excited about what's going on? And the kids have really taken that and run with it in different ways. And it's been neat to talk to kids to see what they're doing. And we're doing everything we can to encourage that. We're trying to put new stuff in place on campus, on our team, so that when we do come back together, that things are different. It's a better environment for our Black and brown athletes. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been challenging, but it's something we look forward to, and we are encouraging our kids to keep it going.
Awesome. Great. Coach Bagnoli?
Yeah, I think we're trying to do, much of what Dan has just stated. I think we have a unique platform as student athletes. And so we want to make sure we give them a forum to express their views and see how they can impact change. And so that's been interesting. And again, my challenge to our kids, and I think the challenge we all have as coaches, is we've got to keep them involved. And this time away can't be wasted time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm spending a lot of time talking to our kids about utilization in a positive manner. Now, some of it could be the social injustice utilization. Some of it could be academic utilization. But there's also got to be a preparation if we're ever going to be a good program, and how best we can utilize it in this unprecedented time. So there's been a challenge to all of our kids, to improve in every aspect of their life, improve on the physical platform, improve the communication skills with all the social things going on, and to make themselves, and as a consequence, make the program around them better. And so we can't afford to just sit here for the next 3 months and just be idle and just tread water, because if we do that, we're going to be in tremendous difficulty moving forward. So despite all the obstacles, and there's plenty of obstacles, we got to make sure that our kids understand that there still has to be a focus, a purpose to what we're doing. And there's got to be an approach that makes sense to them. And then there's got to be an execution moving forward of how we're going to get from point A to point Z. So if and when the spring does hit and we're ready to go, if we're allowed, we're in a position where we can best utilize our team skills, and they're prepared to do so. So it's been challenging, to say the least.
Yeah, that's great though. I remember, and I think Kevin and Tracy were on the call. Sunil Gulati arranged for us to have a Zoom conversation with Don Garber, the president of the MLS. And I recall, I took some notes, and I recalled, we asked him, we were able to spend some time with him privately, and we asked him, how do you utilize your time? And three things that resonated. Obviously, he spends time in triage. He's just dealing with putting out fires immediately. And then he spends looking 2 to 3 weeks out in terms of what they're planning and how they're doing it. And then the one thing that really resonated with me is he looked for opportunities. And that's why I applaud all of you, is to think, what are the opportunities we have during these challenging times that can really make us better? And then Coach, you shared great examples of that from the standpoint of looking for opportunities for us to get better in a variety of different ways. So Tracy, we'll turn it to you. Anything else you want to share with the group, or anything else that your program is doing that would be interesting for our audience to hear tonight?
Well, I think we're doing a lot of similar things, like across the board. I mean, all these coaches are so passionate, so driven, and I know, we miss seeing each other and sort of pursuing and driving each other along the way. And, I think, the big pause is about like opportunity and making the most of it. And we've talked about that across the board with all of our teams and our players. And, I don't think there's probably ever been a time where these student athletes have had an opportunity to pause their life and reevaluate, like look at things in a different way. And what are they about when no one's looking? Where do they want to go? What do they want to do? And I think, somebody said, I think for me, a lot of the summer is always, they get so driven on their own and they take care of themselves and do those things. But then how do you bring it back together and create a great team culture? And just how do you help each other, empower each other, I think is really important. And it's leadership. It's very, it's difficult to lead when you don't know where the path is.
Mm-hmm.
And, Peter, I give you a ton of credit. I can't imagine the weight that you have on your shoulders and what you feel when you don't know the direction of everything. You only think you do. And then, nope, not that rug's taken. And so, I think you've been so, given us the glass half full in many ways, and it's helpful as a staff. And I think as coaches, we have to do that too, and give them direction, but let them guide themselves. But then ultimately, we're a team sport. So, how do we bring ourselves back together has been sort of the things that we talk about in many ways. And the social injustice, the rights to vote, to getting involved. What are you passionate about? And bring it to the group, and let's talk about it, and let's bring it make change, or what do you like that you want to continue? And so like we're looking at all those things. I think right now, first week of classes, these kids are just getting going, and so I tend to back away. This is our season where they get themselves sorted, and then we just try to get back together and enjoy what we like about each other and why we do what we do every day. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing more of them, and the first years. I think nobody's talked about that. I feel for them more than anything. They don't know each other. And by this point, they'd be, having a good time in Carmen or some of those dorms. And now they're just trying to figure it all out. And I can tell, like, their eyes are wide open, like, who's driving this car? What's happening? And so, I think that's been taking a little bit of a focus. And, it's going to be exciting to sort of, every year it's a new year. And so this is a new year and great chance to, what can you find that's positive? What can you find opportunity? And so, we're looking at all those things right now and excited to kind of just see where it goes.
Yeah, that's great. I applaud all of you for I know I work with your student athletes, the culture that each of you have created within your respective program, because it resonates. And we're creating great ambassadors for Columbia with the student athletes that you guys are putting through your program and teaching them life skills in a variety of different ways. And to your point, obviously, we're shifting. We have kind of joke, administratively, we plan, we prepare, then we pivot. And, that's we've been doing, unfortunately, we've been doing a lot of pivoting. And so as we move forward, whatever we've learned and how we've had to pivot, I think we'll apply at some point. When we get back to normalcy and we're able to compete, we'll have procedures in place that will help us execute those in a meaningful and productive manner. Kevin, what would you like to share with the group? Oh, on mute, Kevin.
Can you hear me now?
Yep,
Sorry,
you're
we're having
good. You're good.
technical difficulties. So
all good.
all right. So Yeah, it's no surprise that the comments that we've heard from the coaches at the end that our programs are aligned in the directions that we're going. We've been given that opportunity with the time we've had and through the organization from the department and from other head coaches who have taken leads to gather us. We've been able to talk through and lean on each other and look at what's going on in the world and trying to make sure that we do have a purpose in what we're doing. So the only thing I would add is great thanks and appreciation for the tolerance and the empathy and the understanding that our department and my colleagues, our student athletes, and our alumni and family have truly shown to genuinely care about each other. I think that's been the most moving part of this, with when you take away the massive tragedy, how much people really do truly care. And sometimes you don't find that out until things are really at a place where words are exchanged or maybe ideas aren't shared collectively. So I've got a great appreciation for my opportunity here at Columbia. I'm really grateful for this community that's around us, and I just hope everybody stays healthy and safe. And I think we'll get back together when the time is right, and I think we'll all be better. We'll all be better for it.
Yeah. I know up in Campbell, you guys probably miss walking the hallways and running into each other. I know how much that means to you, and we miss the same when Dodge. All right, Allison, what would you like to share with the group?
Not much to add. The coaches have done a great job. I think for our athletes, we're trying to build our program. Our values are love and excellence, and we're working on the excellence piece. So this is a time for the kids to take some ownership in that, right? I can't direct them. I can't tell them what to do. I can give them ideas. There's plenty of opportunities to play volleyball. Volleyball's all over the country with beach ball and grass ball and indoor ball. They're playing everywhere. Unfortunately, not in Dodge right now. So it's a chance for them to, like Tracy said, reevaluate and see how much they do love the game and to see if they have a vision for what they want to create. But what a great opportunity for leadership and self-reflection at this point.
Yeah, awesome. All right, Katie, the rookie, bring us home and share your insight and wisdom.
Oh yes, of many years. But it's funny to think we're all on the same team or the same staff because we're all saying the same thing almost, just in different ways. So I echo everything that everyone said to this point. The only way I can say that we're doing it differently, which isn't very different, is we're really doing that introspective piece that Allison's hitting on and trying to see different ways that we can really, really bring our team values to life in everything that we do. So one of our team standards is live our standards. And that's what we're focusing on, is like, how is every single one of our values coming out each day? So that's really then going back to the reflection piece. So why are you here? What's your purpose? What's the opportunity that you have at Columbia? Once we figure that out, where are you right now in that trajectory? Are you on your way there, or do you need some help? And then what can we do to help you? What's the action plan? And then we get them to review and reflect on that every day, set up each day with a purpose to go towards where they want to go. And then it's rinse and repeat. So kind of giving them a structure to how to reflect and then what to do from there with some goal setting and your actions from there is what we've been doing as a group.
Awesome. I obviously want to thank our coaches for being here with us and thank everybody for joining us on this webinar. I get to see the remarkable leadership of our coaches on a regular basis, and I hope that you can see how fortunate we are to have these respective coaches and all of our coaches lead our student athletes in a variety of different ways. We're very, very blessed to have the leadership that we have with our head coaches and all of our assistant coaches. And you can see that in the lives of the student athletes. I just want to share one experience that I shared with the head coaches. A couple weeks ago, I had a Zoom call with one of our student athletes that was a senior and was not going to be able to compete his senior year, but yet was going to finish school. And I had this apologetic, aspect of our conversation and how, he'd done a remarkable job. He was a team captain, and how it was just sad that he wasn't going to be able to finish competition his final year. And he paused me immediately and he just said how blessed he was to be at Columbia and how much it meant to him to go through the Columbia experience and how grateful he was for the support that he received in all aspects of his Columbia experience. And as I told the story, I mentioned to the coaches that we don't have too many opportunities right now to celebrate. We don't get to see our teams compete, but yet to me, that was a celebration in terms of the impact that we have on the lives of our student athletes and how meaningful Columbia is to them and how beneficial we are to have them in our lives, and how fortunate we are to see them grow and develop. And that's a testimony to the coaches we have leading our program. So on behalf of our department, I shared this experience with President Bollinger, and I told them that victories come in different shapes and forms right now, but yet there are victories out there, and that's a testament to all of our coaches that are leading our program. So I applaud all of you and what you're doing during these difficult and challenging times. And so again, thank you. Thank you to our coaches. Thank you to everybody who joined us. And Emily, I'll turn it back over to you.
Yeah, I think on behalf of a lot of people, and definitely on behalf of myself, this was wonderful. I think a lot of us have coined the phrase a new normal, and I know that moving into the fall, things are definitely not normal, but this little get together, having you guys all on this virtual event, did feel like this new version of the new normal. So thank you all again for joining us. We're excited to see what the fall and future might bring. And yeah, have a good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in.
Thanks.